humans, a giant human species, has walked on this planet. Did you guys know that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Giant ones. I don't know if you know this, but God told Moses to send out a crew, 12 guys, okay, go check out the land that God had promised to the Israelites. He sent them out. Now, these weren't like panty waist guys, okay? This was from the whole tribe. These were like the frogmen, the Marines. These were, the guys, dudes, sent them out. They checked it all out. It was a land of milk and honey, and the land was awesome. But when they came back, 10 of those men said, we can't defeat these guys. Well, why not? They're huge, man. Okay, in about 6,000 years, there's going to be this guy, Shaquille O'Neal, okay? Way bigger than Shaquille O'Neal. Huge. These guys are talked about in Genesis, okay? And in Genesis, it says that these guys are called the Nephilim. And they're 10, 12 feet tall. In the Mediterranean area, they also had stories of these giant men, people, okay? And these guys said, no, we're not going to go do it. Of course, they did cross over into the promised land. They did defeat them, and the rest is history. But it proves, because in Genesis it talks about it, in various parts of the country, even in Arizona, they've actually dug up fossils of 10 and 12 foot giants. Now, why would I bring up giants? It's a little off topic. Well, I don't want to recognize Terry and Jeff, a couple of guys from my group with. They came down tonight. The reason I'm talking about giants is because we all have giants in our life, amen?
Amen.
A lot of giants, man. I mean, can you imagine if they were still here, though? Can you imagine, like, going to a Kiss concert and one of these guys just dressed as Gene Simmons decides to cut in front of you? Had to take it out. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Or sits in front of you at the movie theater. Or decides he's going to sit next to you on an airplane. Whoa. So I'm kind of glad they're gone. Now, here's the thing I can't figure out. Finding Bigfoot's been on for like 8 years. They still haven't found it. I don't know what's going on. So giants. The fact is, the giants are all part of our lives. Here's the thing. It's God's plan for us to be overcomers, and it's God's plan for us to face giants. Do you guys know that? In Isaiah 48:10, it says that this is paraphrasing, we're all refined in the furnace of affliction. What does that sound like to you? It sounds like we're silver, kind of, an ore, and then when we come out the other side, we're pure. In fact, upon our death, that's what will happen. We will come out the other side, and we will be pure. So yeah, God's plan is that we live in affliction. Because if everything was hunky-dory, we wouldn't need God. Because we could look at ourselves and say, man, everything's just awesome. Awesome. So here's the thing. We have access to gigantic strength. Because I know in this room, there are people like myself who are facing giants. In Psalm 23, probably one of the most famous verses of all, it says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. But here's what we do. We grab at the first thing that comes along, right? God's hand is upon us. He's upon the faithful. But what we do is that we fear that maybe he's not going to provide. We fear that maybe we need to step in a little bit. And that's what we do. We step in. So what we do as humans, we hijack our lives. We get on the airplane, we walk up into the cockpit, and we say, turn this bad boy around. Turn it around, right now, and we head out on a power trip, right? That's what we do on our own strength, our own self-sufficiency. Here's the bad part. Here's the really, really bad part, apart from God. That's the bad part. So we exchange the glory of God for our sin. That's what we do. You've heard that before, right? We exchange the glory of God for our sin. Matthew 12:30 says, if we are not for God, we are against him. So foolishly now, okay, we've headed off, we've hijacked the plane. Now all of a sudden, since we're not with God, we're against him. So not only are we struggling against all of our giants, we're going to struggle against God. Whoa. Here's the thing. We lose every time. No God, no Jesus, no life.
Amen.
So, we need to ask ourselves, are we seeking anything other than Jesus in this life? Because if we are, it's like holding a Dixie cup underneath a waterfall, thinking that somehow this waterfall can fill it a little bit more because I have so much volume. It doesn't work that way. And here's the thing. Our thirst isn't a physical kind. It's a spiritual kind. And I know that's where I kind of went through my life. I went through my life in this quest to fill up. I always like to say, Jackie and I always like to say, this God-sized hole, but we don't stop there, and this God-shaped hole inside of us. That's what I did. In the mid-2000s, 2004, 2005, I was at the height of my wealth. I was pretty good, not as rich as this guy over here, but I was pretty rich. And by my standards, I'm a Minnesota boy. I got to the point where I didn't have to work anymore. To me, that was rich. Okay? It's not rich by a lot of people's standards, but I didn't have to work anymore. Okay? That's ollie oxen free, I'm out. Okay? I got to this thing that the world would say is, wow, you succeed, you've got to be so happy. On the contrary, I was suicidal. You guys ever been so depressed that the emotional pain hurts more than the physical pain, any physical pain you've ever had? And I had a lot of physical pain. I burnt my hand when I was 6 years old. Hot ball of burning wax fell on it. Burnt my hand really bad. I broke my back in football. That hurt pretty bad. I've had all kinds of pain in my life. I've had a lot of near-death things. Go figure, I have. None of it compared to that emotional pain that I had laying on that couch. I didn't have an answer. All the things that you guys are sitting here going, man, if I could just get that job, my job back. Or, I know there's guys in this room that lost houses, lost jobs, lost loved ones, all those things. And all those things are great, but those are not the things that are going to fill that hole. They don't. They're gifts. They're gifts. But they're never going to fill what we need to fill. And that's a spiritual thirst that we all have in us. In 2 Corinthians, it says, we're to live by faith and not by sight.
Good.
Hebrews 1:11 says, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see, believing in something without seeing it. We are saved by God's grace through faith, the gift. We receive faith upon salvation. It's invisible, it's unseen. So it's weird, right? We're holding on to all this stuff, right? Our people, our stuff, our jobs. But the thing that we can't see, it's like air, right? You ever chase after air? No. In fact, Solomon in Ecclesiastes, he finally sums up. He's got slaves. He's got multiple concubines. He's built everything. He's good looking, the best looking, and he's the wisest of all. He says it's all vanity, vanity of vanities. Everything under the sun is vanity. That's what he concludes. And that's what I concluded laying there on that couch. Literally, people would call me. I just couldn't. I would kind of work, and I thought they would see it in my face. They have to see. They have to see what's going on. They have to see it. They have to see it. But they didn't. Every day, I would be another day. I didn't know if that was my last day or not, but every day I would kind of trudge through it. Here's a major point. So I had walk-away money, and I wanted to die. Walk-away money, and I wanted to die. All the things that the world said was awesome, and I still wanted to die. Oh. That hurt. That really, really hurt, because all the things that I was told would make me happy. Of course, I was thinking from a worldly perspective. I was looking at the things I could see. I was kind of like a doubting Thomas. He says, when I see him, when I can stick my fingers in his holes, in his side, in his hand, I'll believe. But here's the thing. I didn't know the gospel message at all. Okay? I didn't know that we're all, by nature, children of wrath. I didn't know that none of us really start off well. You know a really, really amazing thing is that I was a follower. I was a big old fat follower. That's what I did. I followed everybody. I thought this was cool. I thought partying on Friday nights was cool. I thought drugs was cool. Alcohol was really cool. Girls were cool. Cars were cool. Stuff was cool. Clothes was cool. And none of them, it was funny, I'd get a new car, and about a day, I watched this cycle, I would actually listen to myself go, and literally like 2 days later, 3 days later, I would be like, I'm over it. But I pursued it for 2 or 3 months, right? I would buy the right one, and all that stuff, and I'd pursue it, and there it was. So, it didn't fill me. I didn't know about the gospel. I was a follower. When I was a kid, when I was in Minnesota, I grew up on a farm in Minnesota, and we had horses. And we used to use it for transportation. I was a little guy, 10 or 11 years old. My brother was riding a big horse, and I was riding a Shetland pony called George. And George was a follower. I'm going to show you how he was a follower. I'm on George. We're galloping across this wilderness trail in the middle of this alfalfa field, and I look ahead, and my brother is rolled over on this quarter horse. Rolled it. Just like a beater. Stop. You ever guys went skiing and fell down skiing? That's what it looked like. Well, George gets about there, and he rolls too. So now I'm rolling, okay? There was no hole. George was a follower. I kid you not, this is a true story. He rolls too because he thinks he should roll. What a crazy horse. That was me. That was me. He was a funny little horse. And he was a follower. I was a follower. You know, I strived after manpower, horsepower, power plates, power bars, power tools, you know, whatever. It was all about my own power. It was not about God's power. None of it. So, what I want to talk to you about is I want to talk to you about real power, real strength, real giant killers. So we start at the beginning, Genesis 1:1. I always say this. Mark, do you really believe in that whole, like, Jonah in the fish thing? Oh, yeah, I believe in that. Okay, well, I'm going to get you on this one. How about Noah? Built an ark, that whole thing? Yeah, I believe it. How can you say that? Well, because I believe in Genesis 1:1 and everything after it. I believe that if God could create heaven and earth out of nothing, I know you've heard this before, but if I could create heaven and earth out of nothing, God could, then I can believe the rest of it. Sustain a guy in a fish? Yeah. To flood the world because he's not happy with it? Because everybody had turned sinful? Yeah. Yeah, I believe all that stuff. He made it all out of nothing. But he had a plan. John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made. Talking about Jesus. Okay, so Jesus is God. This was Jesus coming on the scene, in the world, in the flesh, God/Creator, became man, everlasting to everlasting. In other words, what we need to fill the hole. What we need to kill the giants. Why did he come? He came to slay our dragons, and our giants, and our sin. It had to be dealt with. My sin, your sin. He stepped off the throne, became man, he died, and he didn't come to condemn us, he came to save us. John 3:17. Wow. But he could have just wiped us all out. Remember, in Noah's era, how many people ended up living through the flood? 8. 8 people lived. All of them were wiped out, dead. So, without Jesus, without the plan, without the dragon slayer, without the giant killer, without the sin killer, the one that's going to put death to death and give us everlasting life, we're all those people. Dead. Gone. None of us are righteous, no, not one. I'll tell you the game changer for me. I started going to the refinery up at Northridge Community Church. This one over here. So a cute girl to sing. She says, if you're going to date me, she said to me, if you're going to date me, you need to join a Bible study. She was probably pointing at me too. You can see her. She's cool. She's not that way. I like to make up stuff because I like easy punch her. Anyway, so you need to, but she did say you need to join a Bible study. I said, okay, I will. Well, guess what? Guess what I didn't do? Join a Bible study. Why? Because it was stubborn butthead. Ding dong. You know? Like Darren says, dumber than 100 chickens. That's how dumb I was. Finally, she said, TikTok, Senator, better join that. I'm not going out with you no more. I joined. After about 3 months, this is 2009, I heard the gospel message. And I asked over and over and over the same question. It can't just be by grace through faith. I was a former Catholic, has to be more to it. Has to be. There's got to be more to this. Has to be. I know I have to do some stuff. No, you don't. So I would come up with diabolical plans every Thursday. And I would come up with brand new questions that I could trip them up. And I know I could twist their little gospel message. And I know that they would change it. I knew it. I could get it. I got exhausted after 3 months. And finally, something happened to me. Peace came over me. Peace. Remember, I was on the couch a couple of years ago. I'm still not doing well. I'm faking it until I'm making it every single day. I'm not doing well at all. By now, 2009, all that wealth is eroding away. Because all my wealth was sitting in real estate. And I got properties upside down big time. And I'm losing them. Okay? Here's the thing. I didn't really care. All of a sudden, this whole thing flipped. You think all of a sudden, all the stuff that I put my stock in, well, none of it was helping me. So I didn't really care. Losing houses? Whatever. I don't care. Didn't bother me. It really did not bother me. I heard the gospel message. Peace overcame me. And I couldn't, swish it on my mouth. I didn't understand what it was. And the word came out of my mouth, and it was peace. Peace came upon me. And then 9 months later, Jackie knows this very well, 9 months later, another essence came upon me. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't spit out the word. I didn't know where the word was because I was so unfamiliar with this feeling. You know what that feeling was? Joy. Later on, I believe it's in Ephesians 5. Later on, I found out those are the first 2 things from the fruit of the Spirit. And they happened to me. And I went, oh, whoa, this is spooky, man. This is spooky. This stuff happened to me. This is getting spooky now. I'm liking you. And so those are the things that started to change. The game changer for me was Romans 3:23. I call it the field leveler. All fall short of the glory of God. I heard that and I went, okay, stop. 1 second. So you're telling me that everybody's a sinner. All you all are sinners? Yeah, we're all sinners. No, I really didn't believe it. It's kind of like I thought everybody could sing. Like, I'm an okay singer, but I thought they could sing. Everybody could sing. No, not everybody. Somebody told me at 29 I did a country album. You're a pretty good singer. I go, yeah, well, we all can do it. He goes, no. Not very many people can kind of do it like you. Really? I thought literally naive. Boy, I thought everybody, I was the worst one. I literally condemned myself. All have fallen short of the glory of God. 3:10, none righteous, no, not one. None of us seek God. In fact, the very thing that we need, which is a rebirth, which is from above, born from above, is the very thing we can't do ourselves. That's why the gospel message changed everything for me. Because there was nothing I could do. The gospel message converted me. I couldn't go out and find it. I couldn't come to Jesus without first receiving him. People say, I came to Christ. I don't know, dude, but I'm thinking under my breath. That's good. But I know he came to you first. Because that's what Ephesians 2:8-9 says. It's a gift. Okay? From God. What does a gift look like? Well, a gift looks like this. Here's the keys to my car. It's all yours.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
Did you see that coming?
No.
No, that's exactly what salvation looks like. I didn't see it coming. Boom, was I changed? Was I a little changed, Jackie, when I was born again? Did I kind of flop 180?
A lot changed.
I flopped. Yeah. Like, I'm still, like, you see me now. Paul can attest. I'm still a ding-dong, but I'm less of a ding-dong. I'm being sanctified. I'm being changed. In 1 Peter 2:9 it says, called out of the darkness and into light. How did that happen? I went through a conversion process. I repented and I believed in Jesus.
Amen.
Guys, if you feel the tug of the Holy Spirit coming upon you today, and you've never given your life to Jesus Christ, or you don't know what that moment looked like, here's the thing. You don't have to specifically know. I remember the day, man. 8 o'clock in the morning, there I was eating my Coke.